Okay, let's meditate for a minute or two. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Venerable De Hong. Very nice to have you back once a month, first Tuesday of the month. So let's quickly, are you going to give a kind of update on your work in the prison?
I can at the beginning.
Yeah, why don't, well, let's, I think that would be great. I think people enjoy that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Uh, Good evening, everyone, or good morning wherever you are. So on, excuse me, on April 26th, Saturday, I was able to go to the women's prison in Chino to celebrate the Buddha's birthday. And also, the great thing about it is that we were approved, excuse me, we were approved to bring food in for the women. So let me show you guys I don't have the pictures in here, but I'll bring up my Facebook page. Um, so here, let me minimize that. Here are some pictures. I escort seven more guests. And let me see. These are what we would call a chaplaincy student. And they in their first year, they for part of their what we call service learning, they were required to do some kind of community service. So they chose to go to the women's prison, and I had to escort them. So and then okay, the lady on my far left is her. She's the professor Tilda Zhang, Zheng. She's the professor, and there were two Sri Lankan monks and one Vietnamese Buddhist nun. And the gentleman, Danny Park, standing next to Tilda, is a close friend of mine. He's very supportive of my prison work as well. And I was able to escort him. Excuse me. So I ordered 60 loaves of bread from Mr. Baguette. And I picked it up at right before 7 o'clock. And I went to Costco and picked up, I think, 2 dozens of roses to bring them in. So actually, let me show you guys the, apologize for not getting it ready, but it should be right here. And also right here, um, I also went to Costco. We were approved to go to bring food in, but it has to be packaged. So I ordered three cases of Gatorade, five bags of envy apples, and I also went online from Costco's website. I ordered 5 boxes of brownies, 4 bags of organic cashews, unsalted, unroasted, and also 3 boxes of Pringles potato chips. So that's what we did. We got in at 8 o'clock and we were done by 3:30 p.m. And for the most part of the morning, we meditate. We from 8 a.m. until 12, we meditate for 3 hours, 40 minutes. And but most of the all the women they were able to sit through it, and some of them were in their 70s and 80s. In between, we had some movements, qigong and walking meditation that were led by Fong, his Tilda's husband, and Danny Park was helping out as well. So that's what we did. And I'm planning to do more in other prisons pending their approval. But the process is quite slow. We couldn't take picture at the women's prison because the staff was not working, so there was none of that. The other thing that I also would like to bring to your attention is over the weekend, at least Thursday night, um, there's a documentary about a bit of my life and my prison work, and it was screened at the Directors Guild of America movie theater this past Thursday. It was one of the 5 that were screened that night. And to my left is the producer. Her name is Andy Lee, and then the other 2 were our editors, Thomas and Mickey. The director is in China. He couldn't make it back on time. And also there were in the middle, this guy here, his name is Tin. He is formerly incarcerated. He's just off parole after 2 years. He also has a documentary titled Empathy that was screened this past Sunday. He flew down just for my documentary as well, and also for his. The title for my documentary is On My Road to Dharma. I don't know how they came up with that, but that's what's going on. So moving on to continue with tonight's topic. I think I have the right file. So last month, the first Tuesday of last month, I began with this book called Abundant, Exhausted, and Immeasurable by Ajahn Pasano. Just a bit of review. So last month, in the first section or the first few pages of his book, he spoke of mindfulness immersed in the body, meaning that as we meditate or throughout the day, if possible, we need to be mindful of what's going on in our mind in each activity as well as in our body. Now, especially during meditation, he emphasizes the importance of being mindful of how our body, our posture, how our body is holding up the tension, whether we feel tense or relaxed, as well as our perception of what's going on in our mind. He quoted a statement by the great, Sariputta, who was one of the Buddha's the most enlightened and with the most wisdom disciple. He was saying basically, having developed mindfulness of the body for so long, it's impossible to engage in skillful action. The mind is well established in loving kindness, abundant, exhausted, measureless, without enmity and ill will. Meaning that what happened during, because the reason that he came up with this statement was that another monk, was envious of his enlightenment and accused Sariputta of that he was attacking him, this and that. And that monk went to the Buddha. That's why Sariputta said, when someone like him who has cultivated mindfulness in the body and being mindful, and there is no way that he could give rise to any unwholesome state and or actions, and that he is established in the quality of loving kindness and compassion. So what is important is to connect with present reality, make sure you are sustaining that connection with the posture and maintaining the continuity of mindfulness. So going on to the new chapter this month, we will speak of the introduction to meditation. He briefly mentioned right intention. Basically, in the Eightfold Path, right intention, the first aspect is renunciation, or not drifting into sensuality. Basically, let go of our sensual desires, not thinking with ill will or aversion, and thoughts of non-harming. So here, 2 and 3 are equated with loving kindness and compassion as part of the right intention in the Eightfold Path. So in order for loving kindness to arise, there have to be thoughts of non-ill will and non-aversion, always encouraging ourselves in and out of loving kindness. And this is really important, especially for those of us, even for me, driving on highway or dealing with folks running the prison. Sometimes there are things that we wanted to do, but we are not allowed. I could feel agitated, but I learned to sit with it and let go of my irritation, agitation, or even anger. And it would take a while, but I need to clear my mind of all of those, because especially as a monk, I cannot hold on to any of that. I have to free my mind from that. I just want to let you guys know. So the very first person to receive any of the loving kindness in your heart is you. So we need to free our mind of ill will and resentment, just so that we can give rise to this loving kindness. And loving kindness has a very strong psychological foundation. What it is that because he basically said we can't give or share anything when our cup is empty. So at least there has to be something in our cup. So we need to have loving kindness directed at ourselves first, and if you can, then you can start directing loving kindness to a little puppy, a kitten, anything. Or, even think of yourself when you were 5 or 6 years old. Give rise to loving kindness and directing that loving kindness as that little kid. Sometimes before, a lot of us, when we were raised by highly critical parents, and we tend to be growing up, being very, very critical of ourselves. So we might think that we don't deserve loving kindness. And also because of my work with folks inside the prison, most of them don't think that they deserve to be loved, to be kind, to be compassionate. And it would take them a while to let go of that perception, just so that they can open their heart, their mind, and to give rise to and to cultivate, to give rise to loving kindness and compassion. And it would take time. So basically, in terms of meditation, you want to direct your attention to the feeling or emotion of kindness and well-wishing, and then finding ways to support, to ensure that up, to allow that to become stable, and it will, you know, and the thing is, the practice of loving kindness requires mindfulness and attention. So you cannot, so that's why like when you meditate, you want to start focusing on the breath or body scan, whatever that you can do to get your mind to settle. Then when you are more mindful and when you start to cultivate loving kindness, it will be easier. So loving kindness has a context of the refuge, precepts, mindfulness, attention to the body, as well as faith, confidence, and effort. Because this gives the cultivator the solidity and stability not to be shaken by what may appear in the mind. And certainly loving kindness has a stable base. It actually affects our mental state of mind when we cultivate loving kindness, and that we can allow it to shine more brightly and last longer. So we need to start with ourselves first and then to everyone else. And this is actually very powerful, useful, and healing. And Ajahn Chah said in one of his talks, a pond in the forest has so many creatures come to drink the water at the pond. Little bunny rabbits or furry creatures, and also aggressive animals with big teeth also coming too. What it means is that this is an analogy, is that is the nature as it is in the forest or out there, right? Or jungle. And the same thing applies to our mind. So what it means is that whatever that comes up in our mind that could be scary, we need to be aware of it and not react to it. So what is important is that we need to have loving kindness develop in such a way that is more grounded, and the perception that nothing is a problem becomes clear, just so that we can establish in well-wishing, and when you repeat a phrase such as may I be well, happy, and peaceful, you set an intention of well-wishing and allow it to resonate and settle in your body. So basically, loving kindness is not separate from what you are feeling in the body, meaning that you feel love, you feel well, you feel peaceful, and it's right here in this present moment. So basically, he instructed us to say to do the meditation, relax the body, allow the body to settle, just follow the breath, allow the breath to also be in a rhythm, and then eventually you plant a seed which is of loving kindness, and pay attention to that feeling. Allow the feeling of loving kindness to permeate, to suffuse, and spread through the body, the mind, and the heart. And then eventually you can spread or direct that loving kindness to your family, your parents, teachers, friends, even difficult people. I use difficult people. I don't like to use enemy, because that word has so much negative connotation. I know that because loving kindness is boundless, is non-discriminative, and without distinction. That way, even with people that we don't like, we can still wish them well, wish them healthy and happy. And that's the nature of loving kindness. So the phrases that he came up with, especially in the context of this book and during his retreat that he did years ago, is basically may I be well, happy, peaceful, and prosperous. May no harm come to me, no difficulties, no problems. May I always meet with spiritual success. May I have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. Um, and also, you can add, may everybody else receive loving kindness. And basically, Ajahn said, I don't teach very much at all. I just teach people to be patient. Be Actually, when you meditate, it also requires patience on your part. So here, patience is courage, is is a willingness to be present with things, whether they are pleasant or unpleasant. With patience, this is an opportunity to allow us to let things go through. It also means an act of kindness. So direct the thoughts of loving kindness, the phrases that I just read to you guys, you know, in a sense, with a sense of gratitude to our parents, particularly if they are still alive. But if they pass, even if they pass away, you know, we can still send them our loving kindness. Uh, Even if you have had a difficult relationship with your parents, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are, at least, you know, remind yourself that you have made it to this point. And in a sense, it's a big deal. This is according to Ajahn Pasano. So basically, how do you, if you are not ready to offer your parents loving kindness, that's fine. You can skip this. I just don't want to force this on you because, again, I work with folks inside the prison. A lot of them were abused physically, verbally by their parents. Even a few were sexually abused by their father. So, but if you're not ready, you can skip this part. But if you are ready, then you can say, may my parents be well, happy, peaceful, and prosperous. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May no problems come to them. And, you know, may they always meet with spiritual success. May they have the patience, courage, understanding, determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. And again, then you direct it to all the people that you encounter and allow your heart to be non-discriminative, expansive, and unlimited in basically boundless, right? Because just think of space. That's how you can open your heart. So that you can send this wish of loving kindness to all living beings. So I want to also continue for the next few minutes with he has after each chapter he has the Q&A after a day or so, then people ask him questions, so he addressed these questions, and I think these questions are important, so I include them in here, especially when it comes to concentration, the topic of forgiveness, of remorse. You know, so I'll start with this quickly. There was a question about samatha and vipassana and the difference between serenity and equanimity. Samatha is basically concentration or tranquility. Vipassana is about insight. And samatha includes concentration and tranquility practices. Vipassana is practices in insight technique. What it is that the aspect of concentration are setting the mind and unite the mind. Um, Vipassana is this reflective, investigative, contemplative aspect practice of the mind. And serenity is a translation for samatha, tranquility or peaceful abiding of the mind, and which is the result of concentration practice. Equanimity, on the other hand, is part of the what we call the Brahma Vihara, the one that we have doing the practice in the past 2 years on and off. And so equanimity, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy are the sublime, lofty states of mind that result in a very refined state of consciousness. So equanimity is also a factor of wisdom in the sense that the mind becomes very stable, very steady, unshakable. Samatha is the setting of the mind, the concentration of the mind. So that was the first question. The second question dealt with the death process. What happens to us when we die, or the body dies, rebirth, anything that affects how we are reborn. So here he said, with death is unpredictable, it's out of our control. So this is where we need to apply equanimity because it's out of control. Just so equanimity here means that we can maintain the stability of the mind to deal with death. And here Ajahn Pasano said death can come quickly, slowly, sometimes on our term, but for the most part, not on our terms. So preparation for death is reflection and investigation on a day-to-day basis. So basically, we need to contemplate on this. And the Buddha taught the 5 daily contemplations. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. All that is my beloved and pleasing will become otherwise separate from me, and I'm the owner of my karma, supported by any karma, whether karma I shall do for good or for ill. Of that, I will be here. So basically, as we die, there's a breakdown in the physical body of the processes that sustain life, right? From the Indian culture back then. Back then, don't forget, it was not called Indian. During the Buddha's time, our body is composed of the 4 great elements: water, soil, air, and fire. When we have time, I can cover that, but you guys can Google that. You can have an understanding of it. So there is a breakdown of what we conceive as my mind and my thoughts. We prop that up through our whole life and identify with our thoughts, memories, and perceptions. And that will start to unravel. So the topics of impermanence and not self, these are important reflections to investigate and to take on board so that you are not identifying with and building your home in this impermanent, not self phenomena. And because this is the habit of all human beings. So that's that. And then the topic of rebirth. And rebirth is not instantaneous as the Theravadins put it, or not as long as the Tibetan or even Mahayana at 49 days. So basically, rebirth is generated by identification, attachment, state of mind, and the degree of clarity and calmness within the mind. Now that I think of it, I think last year I gave a talk on dependent origination, and Ajahn Brahm gave an example of someone who would be reborn. You guys can go back to that lecture and review it. But here, in the Thai tradition, when attending to a dying person, what you can do is support them, making sure that they're comfortable, feel a sense of ease physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Remind them by chanting, speak to them softly, meditating around them, spreading loving kindness around the sick bed. These are important way. I attended to quite a few elderlies, including my mom. I was just there and speaking to them softly, helping her to be at ease and to be able to go and let go of any attachment that she might have. And also in all cultures, there tend to be a washing of the body, a ritual both for the people who are alive and the person who has died so that they can make the transition with peace and relinquishment. And this is important. Three, can you talk about the non-guilt oriented mental aspect? For people who has caused harm or caused inconvenience for someone else. So here the Buddha basically said is recognizing one's faults as fault, one's unskillful action as unskillful action, and wishing to make amends. That is growth in the noble one's discipline, meaning that when we are at fault, when we cause harm, we need to acknowledge that and we need to make amends to that. Um, that is one way that we can reestablish ourselves in that which is skillful, appropriate, and in accordance with truth. And again, nobody is exempt, right? And remorse from the Buddhist perspective basically said, I really missed my shot on that, and that was unskillful. And there's an impetus to change. There's a word hiri or tapa. Hiri means a sense of conscience or embarrassment to an action done in the past. Otapa is a concern for future wrongdoing. The problem is in English, shame and fear of wrongdoing are negative states, whereas from the Buddhist perspective, they are actually wholesome mental states. Kusala means wholesome mental state, which is a sense of well-being, clarity, and discernment. The recognition of an unskillful action has a very wholesome, protective quality. The underlying state of mind is one of respect for ourselves. So the quality of guilt, which is actually a perception, does not give oneself due respect. It undermines our own wholesome qualities. What matters is our actions, committing to integrity, not perception. So basically, try not to hold on to guilt constantly. Try to let that go and focus on your skillful actions. Integrity. That is important. So if you made a mistake and you have an opportunity to recognize that and be more skillful, then ask for forgiveness and seek reconciliation. Fourth is on jhana, which is basically the internal state of stability, like deep state of concentration. And basically, these are the state that the Buddha encourages because they lead to an energizing and a clarity of the mind that allows seeing things in their true nature. Basically, jhana, according to Ajahn Chah, is a process of letting go to the extent that you are willing to let go. Then the mind settles stably and steadily. Lastly, I think question five is on the pain in the body. The person who asked, how to maintain right effort, but I think this is the wrong way to use it. But how, and also the person asked the right effort and the connection between right effort and samadhi. Basically, right effort is about removing and stopping the unwholesome mental status of mind, and also giving rise and maintaining wholesome states of mind. That's right effort. But so right effort is not about being diligent to the body to take care of the body. Um, when it comes to pain, and that's not what right effort is. So here in dealing with pain, it's helpful to pay attention to see the difference in the physical sensation and our minds or mental elaborations around the pain, basically our reaction to the physical sensations. When something is stressed and pain is a warning trying to get our attention, then there are many levels to the physical side. Or some of it is bearable, some may not be. You just have to be skillful. The mental level is basically our reaction. When we react to it, then we suffer. But if pain is very can be very threatening, then but it can be useful. It gets our attention. We can use pain to challenge the mind and the assumptions that we have, bringing a certain urgency to practice. There's no single response. There needs to be balance. See it for what it is. There are different ways of responding to pain. Having a physical body, we always are going to have pain. So it's a matter of how we take care of it and not react to it. And lastly, the question on loving kindness, basically, loving kindness is the absence of aversion, of ill will. Is an expression as well wishing ourselves and others a sense of well-being, meaning peaceful, healthy, and happy. And internally, within the mind, there is this warm spaciousness, non-contention, a concern for others' well-being. Then there will be a physical relaxation. Aversion, ill will, contention, these have their attendant feelings of agitation, tightening in the body. So basically, with loving kindness, we feel a sense of ease, spaciousness, and settledness. Within the heart, there will be a similar sense of openness. There will be space for yourself and for others. And so with that, I will transition to meditating for a little bit. So let's take some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can literally blow the air out all the way out from your stomach. And make sure that your body, your posture is proper, stable. If you are sitting, make sure that your back is straight up just so that it can hold the air for your breathing throughout the session. Let go of your thoughts, thinking, planning, fear, worry. Just let it all go. You can close your eyes or keep your eyes open. That's up to you. I usually prefer to close my eyes. Once you're done, then breathe normally through your nose. Allow your body to settle, to fully relax. Start with a smile. Notice how you feel when you smile and how that feeling gives rise to the physiological sensations in the body. Then see that the feeling, the sensations are fading away. Then notice what you feel next without smiling. Let's move on with the sense practice by first noticing your environment, the space around you. and use your body to feel the room temperature, but not your mind to make the judgment. That's the key. With your mindfulness, check in with your mind. See how busy it is with thoughts, restless wandering around, or distracted by your thoughts or noise or sound in your surrounding. Your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude. All of this are part of your mind and can have an effect on your mind. Your sense of hearing. Know that your hearing consciousness is always on. You cannot turn it off. Your sense of seeing, smell, and taste. These three senses during meditation are not active when there is no trigger. Then your sense of touch in the body, quickly noticing any sensation or tension, tightness, or physical pain throughout your body. The sensual practice helps you to stay grounded and centered anytime, anywhere, so you don't get distracted easily or feel overwhelmed when you're being triggered. So throughout the day, every time you remember, do the sensual practice so that you can become more mindful. Let's bring your attention to your breath and cultivate concentration or samatha by just being present with the breath. Just follow the flow of your in-breath and out-breath. You may notice thoughts that come up from your conscious mind or noise in your surrounding. And when you're not react to that, that is your mindfulness at work. And that you still can pay attention to the breath. Notice the rhythm of your breath in and out. The longer you're able to be with the breath, the stronger is your concentration. And the deeper is your mindfulness. If your mind wanders away, gently, slowly bring it back to the breath. If your mind becomes restless or you cannot sit still, then you can repeat a mantra or prayer, whatever that works for you. Or you can simply say in when you breathe in, out when you breathe out. Or in the Theravada tradition, when you breathe in, you say Bud for B-U-D. When you breathe out, you say To for D-H-O, Buddho. Whatever that works for you. It helps to smile, to relax your body, and to make it interesting for your mind to be with the breath. Let's move on and practice loving kindness using the phrases from Ajahn Pasano. May I be well, happy, peaceful, and prosperous. May no harm come to me, no difficulties, no problems. May I always meet with spiritual success. May I have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. Make sure that you are paying attention to your breath. You are aware of your body and make sure that it is relaxed, not tensed. And see if you're able to feel calm and peaceful, well, healthy, a sense of joy. And see how those feelings give rise to the sensations in the body. See if you can feel a sense of warmth throughout your body. Allow your heart to open as wide as space without any ill will, any anger, aversion, or hatred. And that's loving kindness, that you feel love and kindness. Then notice your mental state of mind. Is your mind filled with kindness, generosity, patience, courage, understanding? And this is helping you to see the connection between your feeling and your mental state of mind. Let's sit in silence for the next few minutes. Just allow yourself to give rise to loving kindness. Let's check in with your mind, see how settled, how clear it is. Your feeling, your emotion, your mood, your attitude, your body, your posture. I notice the qualities of mindfulness, concentration, patience, and loving kindness that you just cultivated. Thank you. With that, I'll hand it over to Danny. In case if you guys have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Um, you mentioned something about how your visit to the prison is in fact a practice for yourself.
Yeah,
Because I mean, without even those who's never visited a prison would can imagine that it's a place where basically the inmates, the incarcerated individuals, are not treated as humans. And when you visit a prison as a volunteer, uh, you're also not treated as a human. Basically, you know, I mean, all kinds of things can happen. Sometimes
Yeah.
they're nice to you, but they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The guards, they don't have to be nice to you. And so
Um,
it's kind of frustrating.
Correct. They keep a distance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are times when, like you would drive 3 hours to get there, and then they said, no, not today. You can't come in.
Oh,
They
actually,
don't.
this morning I was in Lancaster, BR, which is a level 4, and that was where 2 months ago there was a homicide. A guy was stabbed to death. So
Yeah,
it was shut down for 2 months. That's right. Today is the third month that I came back. I get in at 9 o'clock and I asked the officer, and he said that he made the announcement to the buildings. And I waited for 50 minutes.
yeah, yeah,
I sat on the chair. I walked outside. I said, go back. I was not restless, but I'm trying to figure out, how long I should wait. So I
yeah,
used, because I brought some books, so I gave the books to a couple guys working in the chapel.
yeah,
One is the body keeps a score. The other one is freeing the angry mind, and the workbook for the body keeps a score because there's no sense of me taking them back. I offer it to them because they also need them. So I also gave them a quick lesson on preparing for parole or understanding trauma. So after
yeah,
50 minutes, I went to AER and wait until 12 o'clock. It's not a waste of time anyway. I'm not upset or anything, but I feel this sense of sadness. Um, but who am I to blame, right? And who am I to say, hey, you need to get these people out? The guys know that I only go on the first Tuesday, but if they don't show up, they don't show up. I'm not even upset by that, but there's a bit of sense of sadness inside me that this is what's happening in maximum security prisons where they need services, but then they're not able to come or make it.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, so in any case, it's you just have to deal with it because you just say, hey, it's my practice,
Yeah.
and I would like to show compassion to them, but first let me show compassion to myself, and I need to practice empathy. And so, you know, I it's I remember last week in our Cantonese class, you just mentioned how like today you went to the women's prison and you had a celebration of the Buddhist day, and you brought with you quite a number of people as you showed today. Of course, one or two of them had experience inside the prison, but many of them didn't.
Hmm.
And I remember you said that actually, if you have not been in a prison before, uh, and bringing so many people in there together actually was a lot of work. It was actually, like herding cats, right? You actually had to spend more time dealing with the volunteers than you had dealing with the incarcerated.
Yeah. At the end of the day, when I go home, like I needed a drink.
Yeah. Well,
Because
and I think
it was
that
tense. Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to talk about is that most people think that when they go to a prison, it's an act of compassion. It's providing service. It's one of the um, paramita,
Mhm.
dana paramita, right? Whereas in fact, it's actually that comes later, but it's actually a spiritual practice for us, and it's actually to practice empathy. More than so most people they get in there, they're so anxious to because they're Buddhists, so they have this idea what Buddhist teaching can do, and they
Mhm.
think that's the hammer that will you know that they bring, and when they see a nail they just hit it with a hammer. Where
Yeah.
all they really have to do is listen.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a lot of work. Hopefully next year I can do better but it's difficult. It is when you have so many, that's why like, I don't like having to escort so many people. You know, the
Mhm.
incarcerated people, they are very good. They know the rules, so they are pretty good at that. It's the
Yeah.
guests, you know, that they didn't know what they were doing and they think that they are
Also
helping. They
having,
are not.
yeah. Mhm,
Mhm.
mhm, mhm,
Go ahead.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, this time you were in a women's prison, so bringing, you're the man, you're there, they're accustomed to you, but sometimes we bring female into men's prison, and that
Mm-hmm.
adds, another degrees of complexity
Mm-hmm.
because they're not, they haven't been in contact with the opposite sex for so long, and
Yeah.
it really, really require a lot of training.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's when you have to go in pair. You know, let's say
yeah,
for women, for to go
yeah.
inside the men's prison, you need to have at least one or two more persons to go with. It's not that they would do anything inappropriate, but you never know what could happen if we are not aware.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
and actually, like this morning, in Biya where no one showed up, there was this older gentleman. He was in his 60s, and I don't know, he has been incarcerated for more than 40 years, and he knew that as a monk, I'm celibate, right? And he's like, how do you deal with that? You know, and he struggled
mhm,
want a woman with him to have
mhm, mhm,
sex, and he was
mhm,
I was a he was open to it,
mhm,
and I just listened to him. He needed someone to talk, so
mhm,
but it is
mhm,
challenging.
mhm.
Hmm.
It is. But it, anyway, before we leave, whether you work in the prison or me working behind the camera, I always think of it as just my spiritual practice. I never think of it as making a contribution.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's just my practice. And the students, whether they're incarcerated or not, they're like the scaffold for my practice. I need
Hmm.
them, they need me, they benefit from what I do, but I benefit more from, them being there. And yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not saying that you're not making contribution. I'm just saying that I'm just repeating what you said, is that you benefited as much as they benefited.
Oh yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
aware of the issue in my mind, not just my head, but in my mind. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to reach out to Joanne to see
Hmm.
if she has time for next month.
Yeah.
It's June. Yeah, it's June. So last time she did it in March. She said
Yeah.
that she might be available in June, and June might be a good time before, because then she has to travel again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So there's a possibility for those of you. Um, we either have Venerable De Hong back on the first week of June, or if we're lucky, we'll get Joanne back
Hmm.
the person.
Yeah.
All right. Let me turn off the outside first.